one day, I'm just walking and just doing my thing, and bam, I want to say not more than 20 yards away is a 10-foot dark, giant, massive male Sasquatch. I realized what it was, and I knew it was, it wasn't a person, and I dropped. It was fight or flight mode, and I dropped to the ground. It didn't do anything threatening at all. It didn't make noise. Like it didn't yell, it didn't growl, it didn't show its teeth. It didn't charge me or anything. It was just physically there.
This is the Cryptid Creature Show. I am Brian, and with me as always, my co-host Todd. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, my man? How's it going in your world over there?
Oh, fantastic.
You enjoying the dog days of summer?
Yeah.
Actually, it's going to cool down a little bit and get back to normal, but...
It is, yeah.
Tonight, we're bringing on Mike.
Mike.
From Long Island.
From Long Island.
Mike's had a couple encounters, one Bigfoot and Dogman encounter, so... It's going to be interesting to hear that from him.
Yeah, that should be cool.
But before we bring him on, I want to talk about the first annual Indiana Bigfoot Conference.
Yeah, coming up.
Going on in Nashville, Indiana at the Seasons Lodge Convention Center, September 27th and 28th.
Yeah.
We're going to be there. We're going to have a booth there. It starts Friday at 4 p.m. and then Saturday runs from 8 to 6. They're going to have some really great speakers. Really great vendors are going to be there. You can come get some awesome Bigfoot and cryptid garb. You can meet us in person, and
that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they're worth the trip. So we'd like to meet you guys. So come on out and check it out. It's going to be a great show. Again, that's in Nashville, Indiana, September 27th and 28th, the Indiana Bigfoot Conference.
Yeah, man, it should be fun. Hope to see you all there.
All right, with that, let's not waste any more time. Let's bring Mike on. What do you say?
Yep, let's get him. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
All right, good. How are you?
We're doing good, man. Thanks for talking to us tonight, Mike.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So,
Mike, we know you had a couple crazy things going on. Well, was it in Long Island there, you said?
With the Dogman, if that's the route we're going, the Dogman stuff has been, on Long Island, yeah.
Well, what was the first stuff you ever experienced?
Yeah, it was mostly all Bigfoot, and I just found Dogman on accident. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to. It wasn't something I was trying to do. I think I just pissed him off. No, I know I pissed him off.
Why don't you tell us about the Bigfoot?
Trampling through there.
Why don't you tell us about the Bigfoot?
Well, the Bigfoot first. Yeah, I could do that if you want.
Tell us what happened to you, where you saw it at and what you saw it doing and all that stuff.
Okay. So the first time was I had gone into every trade under the sun. Growing up, I was really into the Loch Ness Monster. I wanted to go to Scotland. I was convinced I knew where Nessie was. You just had to get me there. You just had to get me to Scotland. So I just tell my mom every year she'd say, where do you want to go for vacation? And we would go to Montauk every year. There was a question and then followed up by this is where we're going. And it was this little motel that we could barely afford, single mother, only child. And that's what we would do. And we would go on the beach and whatever. It's basically just this tourist town at the end of Long Island. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Montauk Project and Camp Hero and all that. And anyway, I didn't know any of that was going on. I had no idea. I was just there for the beaches and, the pools and whatnot. So anyway, yeah, so I was oh, yeah, I want to go to Loch Ness. Eventually, I tried every trade under the sun, and then I went into the Army around 23. And I had some weird stuff happen to me in there, some things that I thought I might have saw, but I was talked out of. Once was in Korea, and once was outside Fort Benning. The thing I saw, that both of them did this spider crawl thing. Both time I saw them, they were doing this weird like figure 8 movements in and out of the bushes. Like one of them was like really quick and went through this rice paddy and got away, but it was like huge and disappeared somehow. That somebody just added that into a book actually, because it's really a weird story. But now coming back, I had extreme PTSD, and like I went back to addiction because it was really all I knew. And basically that didn't work out, right? You know, like that's like a short-term solution, you know, and not a good one. So I went into the VA hospital and was basically in and out of there for like 5 or 6 years. And I was very antisocial to the point where I didn't trust being anywhere in public. Like, you know, I know it sounds weird to people who are here, but I thought a bomb was going to go off everywhere I went. Like, I thought everything was, you know, prepared for, a catastrophic event. So I stayed away from everybody. So I was in the woods and I was hiking these same trails over and over again. And there's only so much time you could spend inside a hospital, you know, right? And, or indoors in general. So I would just hike and hike and hike. And it was my therapy. And then I was doing that once or twice a day, probably 2 or 3 hours a day. And I never thought about like Bigfoot, but towards probably like year 5 or 6, I started to. I found Mike Patterson a while back at Sasquatch, Ontario. For whatever reason, I was always drawn to him. And you know, maybe it was the voice in Nefertia. I don't know what it was, but I was always very like, you know, drawn to him. And I would kind of like just walk around and like talk like as if he was like, hey, my friends, blah, 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 you know. But what I was really doing was practicing. I didn't expect to see anything where I was. I was going to go to the Pacific Northwest and I was going to pack my stuff, just a rucksack, and just go out there and see what I could see. One day I'm just walking and just doing my thing, and bam, you know, I want to say not more than 20 yards away is a 10-foot dark, giant, massive male Sasquatch. And I remember looking, you know, because if you bump into a hiker on a trail, you know, you like look them up and down, kind of like, you know, you start processing a lot of things about them. Like, are they a threat? Are they this? Are they that? Are they, you know, whatever? Are they on a bike? Should I step off the trail? You know, whatever. Nothing was really been up until I realized what it was. And I knew it was, you know, it wasn't a person. And I dropped. It was fight or flight mode, and I dropped to the ground. And I curled in a ball, and I remember, and I actually, you know, and I'm actually kind of out there looking for Bigfoot, but I really didn't at this point believe that I was going to see one where I was. I didn't believe it at all. There was like maybe a 0.1% chance, you know, and I dropped to the floor and I started screaming, no, no, no. And when I looked back up, it was gone. And it didn't, I like to make this clear. It didn't do anything threatening at all. It didn't make noise. Like it didn't yell, it didn't growl, it didn't show its teeth. It didn't like charge me or anything. It was just physically there. And it was actually in hindsight, it was actually a really beautiful thing. It was a like shiny, beautiful coat, like free flowing, very, very well maintained. You know, like I hear stories of scruffy looking ratty. Like this was a beautiful, beautiful thing. Like really, really like well maintained. And I got out of there, you know. I'm making a long story short, but I got out of there and I got to my truck, and I remember kind of like taking a little bit before I drove, and then I was kind of like a vegetable for like a couple of days. And I just remember kind of just staring in space. Like if I was watching TV, I wasn't really watching TV, you know, I was just like replaying this and replaying this and replaying this. And like, that's all I could think about. And it was just occupying my mind. And I think this is the point where you hear some people tell that story and how horrifying it was, and that they never went back in the woods. And then you hear other stories, like people like me who say, okay, well, I walked out of there. I didn't do anything. I got to get more answers, and that's where it all started for me. My hiking to stay away from people. I still like to stay away from people, but if possible. But I go off the path. I go to remote places. Like the more and more better. People get mad when it rains. I'm like, yes, nobody will be on the trails. Like things like that. So I'm still kind of the same way in that effect. But I like to. I shouldn't say I'm like antisocial, but like I'd rather be amongst the woods than in a football stadium or something.
Us too, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. We don't like people either.
Can you describe the Bigfoot? What you were looking at, Mike? Can you tell us what you saw in detail there?
Yeah, he was all black. It was very like, his hair was like, I don't know how to explain this part, but like it was almost the same length everywhere. Like some people say like they had shaggy hanging off the elbows or this or that. It was all very free flowing. Like it was all the same length, like everywhere, like a perfectly trimmed haircut, like all over his body. His face was very distinctive. Here's where it gets very distinctive. And I don't remember much about his eyes or his nose or anything, but I remember seeing this. You know how men used to have like a chin strap, and that was like a style, and it was like this thin. So his was about an inch, but it went all the way around, and it was gray. It was like grayish white, and it went all the way around right before his like leathery skin started, and it was very distinctive on that jet black, because that black was blacker than black. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like really like jet black, I guess is the best way to put it. Honestly, I feel like such a bum sometimes when it comes to details, because I don't remember many. Like I feel like I fall short when it comes to like really like distinctive details, because sometimes I'll hear people describe things and I'm like, wow, like I can't believe they picked that up, like I do have a TBI too, which is similar to a little bit of a 51st Dates thing. So like I do kind of like lose memory on certain things, but it's not an excuse or anything. It's just something that comes into play on occasion. So some days I fire on more cylinders than others. So
you probably passed out pretty quickly, or freaked out and dropped pretty quickly. I'm guessing, not passed out, but you probably freaked out and dropped pretty quickly once you realized you were looking at something you didn't know what you were looking at, I'm guessing.
Well, right. It was like, I was looking up it, and as I just kept going up and up and up and up, you start to realize like very quickly that you're going too high, for a person. So pretty much when I landed on its face was when I, decided to go straight down. And I mean, I say fight or flight, but it's interesting to me that I didn't run. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really run. I just went straight down, and kind of I was almost begging. You know what I mean? Like almost like begging for it not to hurt me, kind of. Like please, like. But it wasn't doing anything threatening, but I was also just like, that was how big it was, that I was just like, almost just like, I didn't know what, when I hear people say that, oh, I would do this or I would do that. And I would, my last job was a soldier. Before that, I was in war. I was going, and my reaction was to not do anything towards it, you know, not even try.
What I'm thinking is when people encounter Bigfoot and this happens to them and it's so traumatic, I try to think about, how can you relate to something like that? And I say, well, maybe if you were in a zoo and let's say the gorilla cage glass broke, and next thing you know, you got like 2 or 3 silverbacks standing around you, just ready to pounce on you. But even then, it's got to be worse than that because you don't know what the hell the thing is, right? You know what a gorilla is.
Yeah.
You don't even know
Well,
what this
that's
thing is on top of it, and it's right in your face, and you're like, I can't do anything.
it depends how deep in you are too, right? Like, because I mean, and a silverback is something to be to marvel at, right? Their size, their strength, and they're only about 5 foot, but I mean their strength is just unbelievable. A chimpanzee even, their strength is just something remarkable. But when you think about something that looks like a silverback standing on a Brahma bull, like it's like it's like you don't know how to process it. And then depending where you are and how far in you are and stuff. I only had a 3/4 mile hike, and it seemed like forever. You know what I mean? Like when you are like, all right, this thing came up on me without me knowing. It left without me knowing where it went. I've gotten to a place now where I know they're there. I respect them. I love it that they're out there. I think it's a magical thing. I really, I think it's amazing. I think it's the most amazing thing ever, and I feel very blessed to not have to guess anymore if it's like, if it's one of those, well, maybe it is, or maybe like, I feel very, very, very blessed to know that they're there, and I really respect the woods a lot differently now that I do, like a lot differently.
And I want to throw this in there too. You said these, you've had these encounters on Long Island, and when people think Long Island, New York, what the heck? That's not possible. But you got to look on the map and see. Way out there by Montauk Island or Bay, whatever it is out there, it is wooded out there, and there's enough area. And then anything could swim across the bay there from the north, couldn't they? I mean,
Sure. Coyotes do it. I mean, coyotes do it when they get hungry. They come from Connecticut. So a lot here. This is where things get interesting, right? Because I mean, our pine barrens are on the island are 100,000 acres. So I mean, there's just that alone. There's a lot here. I only do Suffolk County mostly, and then I do the Catskills and and up. But the reports I get from fishermen or captains or whatever you want to call them, I don't know what their titles are always, but they come from even more west than I would imagine, and they see them wading in the water too, in the middle of the night, like fishing in the dark, like clamming and mussels, whatever it may be. They're out there, digging, and these guys know the difference. Like they're not calling me and being like, hey, like I saw a guy and he was out there illegally clamming. Like they know the difference between what they're looking at. And this guy, will just call him Captain P or Captain whatever. Anyway, he knows a spot where one just comes out quite often. It's like a cove or a canal, whatever you want to call it, like an inlet area of a bay, and it must be super lush, and it's off limits. You know what I mean? Some of these places have become cut off from us as humans because they're overfished or they just become protected, and then I guess maybe when they start to come back, we're allowed to go back in. I don't know. I'm not sure how it works. I've been out of the clamming game for quite a while, but pretty cool.
Well, that's interesting that you say that some of those areas are protected and they know to go. Those are the areas they go to because no people are there. But you wonder why they're protected.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely. And I have a theory and a hypothesis on like state parks and national parks and things, and that there's certain hotspots of their own, and maybe that's why they close at night, and because somebody knows something. And then I go into like reserves and preserves because I have kind of this hunch that those are similar to like Native American reservations for Sasquatch. Like now, there's no not you're really going off trail and into these just like wilderness areas, kind of. You know what I mean? Or most of the areas will just have like little docks that go out and you can watch ospreys or this or that or the other thing. And but there's some pretty special spots where you go out there and you're like, oh yeah, this is it. And like you said, you really have to be here to appreciate what Long Island is. I get that almost every single time. But like Long Island, and look, like I mean, talking about suburban Sasquatch and Dogman and all that has been, one of those things that I just feel I don't dedicate all this time. I have time to do whatever I want. I don't dedicate it all to this for fun. Like,
yeah, I'm looking at the map, and Long Island, there's more wooded area than anything there. I never really thought about it or looked at it, but from true Long Island up to Montauk, I mean, and even Montauk is, wow, it's mostly wooded, heavily wooded area, and people don't understand that. And you got water all around you, and little islands and inlets all the way up, like you said, to Connecticut there. So
the other side too is a bunch of islands all the way to Fire Island. There's a bunch of islands down that side too, and it's interesting. We've been told our whole lives they're in the middle of nowhere, right up in the mountains, and you got to go into the middle of nowhere. And I try to preach where I bumped. I'm not going to give you an exact location, but where I bumped into one and where I bumped into some of this stuff is not far from your homes and my homes and your workplace and your doctor's office and where your kid goes to school, and it is not far away, and I can't elaborate completely. Like, I don't like to really drive home people's beliefs, whether they come in and out of dimensions, or whether they're going underground, or whether they can cloak. I'm at a stage where I don't shove that down people's throats, but I have my understandings, and I kind of let people come to me with their own, understandings and or questions or whatever. But I also sit down. I've learned to, before I go in an area, try and sit down with the Native Americans that have, the people who've been there first, right? And I try to sit down with them and just kind of tell them the journey I'm on and say, hey, is there anywhere I shouldn't go? Or, like I'm not looking for answers, but are there any places that maybe might be bad, like, or have bad energy or whatever, like, and they're very willing to help you out with that kind of stuff.
Well, why don't you get into your Dogman encounters and tell us what happened with those and when they happened?
See, these are tough because they border a line of I don't like people to not want to go in the woods, but these are the kinds of things that make you not want to go in the woods. So I'm at this place, and it's pretty far back, this road setback, and it's on this like it's very unused property, but it's on this huge university and hospital and whatever, and they have a lot of area, but they have like this whole huge area, and there's this road that goes back. And the way I found it originally was by just walking off trails, and just saying, okay, I'm going to go in these woods and just see how far they go. And they just kept on going and going and going and going. And I found out that they landed way in this back area. And I found I'm like, well, there's a parking lot back here, and there's a bunch of weird buildings. And like, you know, like, I'm like, I don't know what's going on back here, but I'm like, there's still a lot of woods. I'm like, I'll check it out. So next time I drove down there and I parked, and I had gone in there, you know, a bunch of times. I can't even name how many, but I used to bring my dog and all sorts of stuff. You know, I'd go in there, I'd do live streams and interactive live streams with people, and you know, walk around and really, really thoroughly go in and out of this place without a problem, without no hitch of any kind. And on this particular night, this is when I started to go into, you know, nighttime stuff. But I wasn't really doing nighttime stuff yet, so I didn't have all the equipment you would need or whatever, and I just kind of got caught out there a little past twilight. And in the hot months, you know, it's really good to go at twilight, either early or late, right? Because, like, you know, you get more productivity. It's not so burning hot as in the middle of the day. And, well, what's out there in the middle of the day anyway, right? So, like, I hear like a pack of coyotes or something, right? And we don't have coyotes, but like I hear like this pack of like angry dogs, like, and I can hear them, and it sounds like they're closing in on me, and it sounds like they're close and they're far, and I really don't know what's going on necessarily, but I get this gut instinct to get out of there. I keep getting distracted though. Like as I'm going to leave, I'm like, oh, this and that, and look at this, and like, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm still kind of doing my nature thing. I'm still not taking it super seriously. And all of a sudden, I get this urge to get the hell out of there, right? So I can feel that, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, I really don't know how to put it into words. Sometimes words fall short, but like they were closing in. Like I felt like I was getting closed in on so hard. Like I was in a mad dash to get the hell out of there at this point. So I'm making the best decision I can to leave. And that road I was telling you about that comes in like all the way through the middle of the woods that they put in back there. There's a street light, and there's like this like almost like a tunnel of there's trees on the side that overhang, but it's almost like a tunnel that goes through, and I can kind of see this dim light in the street. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to that, and then I'll get in the street and I'll be good. And then I'll just walk up the street, and I'll, you know, and it's not a street, it's just a road that goes through this big empty place, right? But I'm like, I'll get there and I'll be in the light. So what I do is I'm like kind of shiftily moving, and I'm watching my back, and my head's on a swivel, and I'm exiting. And as I get really close to the street, I start to get this almost like, like this like sigh of relief, right? And to my left, it was like I didn't fully turn, but to my left, I could see the bushes. Like something was in the trees, and these trees, I've been back there a few times to show this location and what it looks like. These trees are very like, it's almost like there's cave systems underneath, and the deers go in there. The deers love it. They go in there. They go in and out of it, and everything uses it, right? Everything uses it. And I kind of was hoping that's what it was, but it wasn't. These two, well, first one charged out at me, and the second bound out with it. I thought the first one, what I thought was happening was the first one was bounding out to distract me, to like snarl at me and get my attention and get me to look at it, so the second one could take my head off. So I switched to the second one right away, and I had pulled a blade. I was now sideways and kind of backpedaling, and I pulled my blade, and I mention this specific part because it's such a ridiculous thing to do. When I tell you these things were, I think they have like a hunch to them, and they were towering over me. 6.5, 7 foot, at least. And I think they were at a hunch. Typical. You remember the books, the books you used to get as a kid, they're only like 7 pages. Little Red Riding Hood, very, very typical. Like very, very similar to that, except these were vicious. But anyway, let's finish the story before I can talk about my feelings on the subject. They bound back in. They went back in and disappeared. And I ran to the street, and I'm now in under the lights like I wanted to be. But now I feel like I'm exposed. Now I feel like the lights are working against me, because now I feel like I'm on display, because I have to go street light, then through darkness to street light, through darkness to street light, before I can get to my truck, which is parked in the back. And these trees that they came out of are all the way along the side of the road. It's just, there's only a maybe 20 foot, 15 foot gap of grass between the curb and the trees that they were just bound at. And those trees go all the way to my truck, pretty much, almost all the way. And as I'm walking the street, I can see them making tactical movements. I can see their eyes shine. And they're, it's not a deer. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not anything you can talk yourself out of. Like, this isn't like, oh, I could be like, Bambi decided to rear up and come at me, because Long Island, we don't have wolves, we don't have bears, right? So this is why I kind of call it a cryptid playground, because they don't really have much to compete with besides us. There's really no threat to them. And anyway, they were making these tactical movements. Like, I could see their eyes shine, and then one would like close its eyes and like move. It was almost like it would move over and go like another 5 feet to it and like open up its eyes and watch me. And then like that one would close its eyes and like move. And there was not just 2, there was a few sets of eyes. And, eventually I made it to my truck, and I remember, so anyway, there was woods on the backside of me too that I was very worried about as well. So, but anyway, I made it back to my truck. I remember driving out of there thinking that, something was going to jump into my window and whatever, take me out. It didn't stop there, by the way. When people talk about things following you home, like, they somehow terrorized me. And I live in suburbia, and they were somehow terrorizing me in different ways throughout the course of a month. I mean, I saw one on I hate saying this stuff because it sounds so crazy, but I saw one on my neighbor's roof with red glowing eyes, like hunched down, like it was ready to jump down across fence, like, I mean, a good jump, and it was up there. I wasn't even thinking about it, whatever. Like, I just went out to have my cigarette. You guys were on the phone with me before we started. Where was I? Smoking in the hallway. I still do it. Because I don't like, I call it PTSD. I don't know. I don't go all the way out. You know what I mean? Because like, it's become a habit now that I don't go all the way outside. Now there was different ways, like, just my fence would just start shaking uncontrollably to the point where you'd think it was going to rip out of the ground. and then it would just stop, and just these different things would just happen and happen and happen, and it was like they were terrorizing me. And like all of a sudden I started to like I guess take my power back, if that makes sense. I had been getting, the night that it started to happen, the same night or whatever, I called some friends in New Zealand. They called a tribe because it was the middle of the night here. I couldn't get anybody. I ended up calling across the world. And it's embarrassing, but this is the lengths it was. They said you have to claim your dominance and you have to go pee in the corner of your yards. And so they can't come in. But I was too scared to. So I was urinating in cups, similar to this one, and throwing them out the door. I know, it's ridiculous, right? I was scared shitless. These are real things, right? But here's, in all this chaos and all this crazy, they never did anything. And they could have, over and over and over and over. And I started to realize, like, they are just effing with me, man. And nobody else, there's not many people I could talk to about this. Nobody else around me is noticing this. Like, so I gotta figure this out, you know? And that's when I kind of like took my power back. And when I started to get less and less scared, and I started going back out a little bit, eventually I went back to that place, which sounds nuts. People were like, what the hell would you do that for? I had to. If I didn't, it would have like, it would have, eaten me alive. And then I've gone back there, time and time again, because like every time, let's say, if you get hit by a bus, right? I mean, or what? I'm sorry, that's a bad example. But like, let's just say you almost get hit by a bus, and then you avoid buses the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like, that's not good, right? Like, you should go and see that, other buses aren't going to hit you. You know what I mean? Or almost hit you. Whatever. So this is what I needed to do. I needed to work through my trauma. I mean, and that came a lot later. But anyway, I've come a long way. I had a lot of help through that time, but I was getting a lot of bad information too. I'm in the Bigfoot world like on a regular basis with people, but when it came to this, I was just lost. I had no idea. I was unprepared. Anyway, that was pretty much, I kind of breezed through it, obviously, but, that was one of the encounters I had where it really, dragged on, and it was pretty messy. It was not fun. But now let me add this, please, quickly. I think I already did. They didn't hurt me, right? And that's important to keep in mind. Like, I'm here to tell the story. So there's something to that, they're not just like predators that kill people like for fun. You know what I mean? I don't want people to never go on the trail again because there's a dog man out there. Just keep in mind that there's other stuff out there, and we're not top dog, literally. Like,
I think that's a lot of people's reaction with Dogman. I don't think they don't expect it. It's one thing to run into a Bigfoot, but it's a totally different thing to run into one of those. And I don't think a lot of people know how to process that. I wouldn't.
Yeah. The Bigfoot look more human. These look more monster-like. You know what I mean? They look more like a predator. Don't get me wrong. I think Bigfoot could do serious predatory damage. Like, I mean, I think they're king of the jungle type thing, but they don't have that, other than body mass and like strength, muscle and stuff. They don't have like fangs and claws and I don't know. Even though chimpanzees and like silverbacks are it could be a top predator. We don't view them that way, right? But we view a wolf as a predator. You know what I mean? As that's what we view them as. So like it's I think we just do a correlation, you know, to the closest thing we have. And sometimes, you know, it doesn't do justice.
Yeah, it's strange that they jumped out, and then it's almost like they just did it to scare you. And then, you know, they took off, and then they followed you out, whatever they were doing, stalking you again. But it's almost like they were doing it just to practice. Like maybe you were an animal. If you were a deer, you know what I mean? But they knew you weren't, and maybe there's some code of ethics with these things. They're not supposed to harm humans. I don't know. I don't really believe that. It's terrible.
Well, I don't think so either. I think if they can get away with it, they will. You know, but in that particular area, I think it's a small area, right? So like, let's say that's their home. If they would have took me out, people would have come looking for me, right? You know, maybe that's not such a good thing for them. I don't know. These are the questions that can drive you crazy, you know.
I got a question for you though. I want to talk about this before we wrap up the show. You do live out there by the Montauk area. What's your thoughts on the Montauk monster? Were you around when that thing washed up on the shore?
Yeah, I did a follow-up on Plum Island, and I got met with rifles. I got some jet skis, and we tried to go to Plum Island and get some answers. I try to go in Brookhaven Labs quite often, get met with rifles. I have a buddy who just put out a book, Montauk is Strange. He has a channel called Montauk is Strange too. We do a lot of work at Camp Hero, but it's also shut down now, right? Like, so there's not a lot of answers left, but there are still active places, and they're still heavily guarded by the military. There's a Tesla museum there now, like in Elm Island, that we're trying to get to. They'll only give us, paid public tours. Brookhaven Labs won't let me in. They don't want to hear from me. The last guy, you could look it up. The last guy from a paranormal group out here got locked up for life. As soon as he got into Brookhaven Labs, his life went to kind of down a bad path. So I kind of, pick and choose where I poke the bear, but there's a lot going on out here, and the Montauk monster, I do believe, was absolutely real. You'll get a lot of stories that change over the years, right? The initial story, and then what people are even easily talked out of what they saw. It's very simple. And I tell people all the time, I don't care what you thought you saw or what what your initial reaction was. Remember that. Write it down, jot it in your head, whatever. Because every second that goes by after that, you're programmed into human doubt to start going the other way and backpedaling and backpedaling and backpedaling. And it's just human. It's not human nature, but it's our human nature. It's the way we've been, built, right?
The defense.
And I remember the hype over that thing, and there wouldn't have been hype over a raccoon or some, weird little thing, or all sorts of stuff. It's an island, right? There was a lot of hype about that thing, and I was young. I believe I was pretty young, but. You guys might like to talk to my friend.
The weird thing about it was it had a beak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a beak. Yeah,
it looked like it had a beak, but yet it looked like
it did.
Maybe it had raccoon hands and a body of a dog.
I don't know.
That thing was wild.
I don't know. So, but when you consider where Plum Island is, right? So we have Montauk is the southern shore, so it's odd that something would land there, but I don't know currents and things to that effect. But Plum Island is where they do animal experiments. I mean, you could go on websites and they're literally posted. Like you can get, if you have well, anyway, Orient Point, a ferry goes out from Orient Point over to New London. There's a ferry on the other side of that ferry where people park that work at Plum Island, and they take that little ferry over there. They get whisked and whatever. They have to leave their car back. They have to take you know what I mean? Like they get frisked and all that, and before they go in, and NDAs, and we'll never know what goes on there. On the surface, you could drive your boat, 100 feet around it all day, and it looks like a pretty little island. But if you take a close glance, but you'll still just see speculation. It goes down, goes down.
Yeah, there's some people out there experimenting. There's some government agencies out there experimenting on these animals. It's almost like the movie The Island of Dr. Moreau, if you guys remember that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
This trying to combine so many different creatures with each other to make better, bigger, weirder creatures, just to play God. Just to play God.
Oh, right, yeah. I was just having that discussion with my friend because my dog is kind of, he's really injured with his back legs, and he's not in pain, but his spinal cord isn't reaching his brain isn't reaching his spinal cord to his back body, right? So it's not computing to his back legs. He's not in pain, but somebody has to play nurse for him all day because, he has to get up and down the stairs, whatever. So at what point do you play God, right? Like, it's the guy's telling me, oh, you could put him down or you could nurse him for the next, 5 years till he dies naturally. Well, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, that's a tough, right? To me, that's even a tough call. Like, I don't know how people do these big scale things where they operate on animals and toy with them or things to that effect, or I don't know. It's not for me.
Yeah, me.
But it's done. You're right. It's done, and it's done right here, right off. It's basically on Long Island, but it's just separate from Orient Point, Plum Island.
Do you want to see another Bigfoot again?
Of course, yeah, of course. I'm like, it's not my main thing. I've had the great fortune of seeing a couple. I've seen a white one. I feel very, very blessed. I enjoy nature. I love that they're out there. I put my energy out there and tell them I'm here for them. I try to vibrate at a certain frequency and if they want to come to me, I'm all for it. And that's what I put out there. I manifest it. I put it out in the universe, but I'm always game. I'm always game. Yeah. I'm out there every day trying, but I'm not like chasing footprints and evidence, and that's not me. I'm just kind of like one day at a time, just trying to enjoy
the nature, and if it happens, it happens.
That's right. That's
how it should be. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to force anything anymore. Yeah.
Right.
All right, answer me this question. You've seen a Bigfoot.
Yes, sir.
And you've seen Dogman. Who'd win in a fight?
Yes. Oh, man. I don't know. I guess it really depends on sizes, right?
Yeah.
It really. I don't know. I think probably the Bigfoot in the end. But that's a tough call. Yeah, it's a tough call. When people ask me about bears, because of how grizzly bears are insane, right? They're like, polar bears and grizzly bears, and they're tanks, right? But they're not comparable to what to what we're talking about here today. They're just not comparable.
No,
at all. They're just not. I'm not trying to downplay them because they're amazing, monstrous animals. Black bears run from grizzlies, everything, right? But there's no comparison. But yeah, I don't know. Bigfoot versus Dogman. That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe we'll leave it for the audience. I don't know. You guys, you guys decide.
Right on, right on. Well, Mike, we appreciate you being here with us tonight, man. It was awesome talking to you.
Good encounters.
I get a little nervous, but thank you so much for having me. And
good.
you guys are great. I mean, I appreciate it. And for anybody out there listening, thank you all so much, and have a great night.
Have your buddy get a hold of us.
Yeah, no problem. Sure. He just put a book out. Probably good timing for you guys to talk.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Have him get a hold of us. Email us. And if you're out there and you see something else, be careful and reach back out to us.
Yeah, we'll do. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
All right,
Take
buddy.
care, bud.
Thank you.
All right, be well.
When you talk about Long Island, I don't think about it being wooded at all. I don't think about it being...
Yeah, you think of New York City. You think of, it's...
And it is a peninsula off New York City, or they're all kind of intertwined there, whatever you want to call them, little peninsulas areas. But you actually get out to Montauk, what we talked about, and I thought Montauk was just a little, bay there that you walk a few hundred yards and boom, you're on sidewalks and streets and everything, but it's not. If you look on the map, you guys, it's way out there, and there's a ton of wooded area. And you look at that Long Island Peninsula, and you're like, well, it's not that big, but it is. It's a lot bigger when you get down to personal size and you're out walking around there. It's huge. So a lot of things could be hanging out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they could swim across from the mainland, and we talked about that. So anything could be there.
Exactly. Yeah. There's
maybe not even live there full time.
There's enough little islands and inlets where they can swim a little bit and get land and keep coming across.
Sure.
So very interesting. And we got to get his buddy on that he was talking about. Who's into the Montauk area and the strangeness over there. So we'll be sure to do that.
For sure.
Anyway, guys, make sure you definitely, like we said before, check out the Indiana Bigfoot Conference here in Nashville, Indiana, September 27th, 28th. We will be there. Look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, man, it's going to be fun.
We appreciate you guys listening, as always.
Always.
Be sure to check out our website, cryptidcreatures.net. You guys can get members-only episodes on there.
And if you have a story to tell yourself, you can get a hold of us at the email at info@cryptidcreatures.co.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would.
All right, buddy. With that, I think I'm ready to take off. What do you say?
Yep. See ya.